Hello, my name is Salla-Riikka Kuusalu, and I come from the University of Turku, Finland. I will start next fall as a postdoctoral researcher in a recently started SeedLING project at the School of Languages and Translation Studies. Finnish forests have become heavily debated in the traditional and social media due to the multiple and controversial needs they are expected to fulfill. These needs include, for example, monetary gains for the Finnish government from state-owned forests, monetary gains for the numerous private forest owners, tax money through the forest ownership and industry, jobs supported by the forest industry and management, natural resources open to the public via the Finnish public rights of access, such as the possibility to collect berries, mushrooms, and other resources following regulations, hunting game with a permission, enjoying hiking, camping, and other activities in the forest. The forest discussion includes various voices that the discourses of, for example, the economy, nature conservation, tourism, indigenous people's rights, and public rights of access highlight differently. In this presentation, I will introduce a research project that aims at explaining and renewing the ongoing forest discussions in Finland using ecolinguistic methodology. The project From Forest Words into Forest Action is funded by Kone Foundation, starting now in August 2024 and lasting until the spring 2029. It's part of a larger forest research community of Kone Foundation that aims at bringing together researchers, artists, journalists, and activists to make the forest discussion more inclusive. Our research group goes by the acronym SeedLING, and here are its main researchers at the School of Languages and Translation Studies at the University of Turku. The principal investigator of the project is Foreign Languages Learning and Teaching Professor Minna Maijala. Professor of Digital Language Studies Veronika Laippala is the other investigator who helps with the analysis methods of digital data and in the use of artificial intelligence. The postdoctoral researchers in this project are Attila Grisson and myself. Attila is holding a university lecturer of English position, and I'm currently a university teacher in ecology. I also coordinate University of Turku Nature 2100 Fund, which aims at buying and conserving formally managed forest areas around southwestern Finland. Currently, I am doing postdoctoral research at Ethical and Sustainable Language Teaching Project at Turku University. As our scientific advisor, we have Professor in Ecological Linguistics at the University of Gloucestershire, Aran Stibbe. It's very hard to decipher those actors in the forest industry who are genuinely acting to conserve forest ecosystems, advance nature protection, and preserve biodiversity. Oftentimes, the communication and advertising of forest companies highlight the positive sides of the industry, such as creating jobs, tax revenue, positive climate effects through forest growth, public rights of access to forest land, and monetary benefits of private forest ownership. However, many discourses seem to highlight such effects of the forest, such as nature travel, health benefits, biodiversity, and climate effects, which actually are produced by diverse natural and old forests that are very rare and often found only at protected areas. The communication and the real effects of the forest industry are contradictory, as forest harvesting, clear-cutting, and planting have detrimental effects to the natural structure of forests. Especially many old forest species are endangered in Finland due to extensive forestry. So the lack of transparency, as well as the forest actors being seemingly open but hiding the critical facts, are hindering the discussion and distorting decision-making about forests and their conservation efforts. Some problems that would need to be addressed are the lack of hearing what the public wants, openly giving information about the environmental effects of different companies and management options, inventing and enabling alternative revenues from the forests to forest owners, accepting old forests as important storages of carbon, including the whole forest ecosystem into the evaluations of the value of natural forests, calculating the effects of using hardwood as an energy source instead of refining it into a more lasting product that stores carbon for longer. These are some of the examples. The ongoing forest discussion in the Finnish media, such as the leading newspapers, social media, and forest magazines, reflects multiple viewpoints. However, some discourses are intentionally created to cover up unpleasant issues. Some global companies have been caught using linguistic devices to cover up and downplay their environmental effects. Such linguistic means can be, for example, nominalization, whereby meanings that are typically realized by verbs, adjectives, and conjunctions are realized more abstractly by nouns. Another device is passive voice. Both linguistic means distance the unpleasant effect from the people by making it more abstract. One can also invent new terms, such as calling clear-cutting a renewing forest management, or industrial wind power plants as wind power parks. By adding words with positive connotations, such as green, clean, or bio, into industrial terms like economy, technology, make them start feeling more positive. Bioeconomy, green or clean tech. Linguistic structures and meanings can also be used to direct decision makers in reports directed to them. For example, according to a research conducted at the University of Turku by Kanerva and Rizan, the language used in the report summary of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, directed at decision makers, enables using the report against or hindering climate action based on economic issues. People suffering the most due to forest management are also often excluded from the discussion, although in many countries, including Finland, disputes between the governmental ownership versus indigenous rights are at the heart of forest management issues and would require that these people are heard and their rights to the land acknowledged. Some linguistically interesting questions arise from the forest discussions. What kind of forest discourse fills the criteria of a harmful discourse in its ecophilosophy? By ecophilosophy, in this context, we mean such a philosophy that the research is based on, and in our research, that is determined by ecological research of sustainable forest management and use in the context of Finland. Another question is what linguist means are used to cover up controversial issues. There are contradictions between, for example, the need to increase biodiversity and forest management that decreases it. Often the local, small-scale forest management can be supportive of biodiversity, but the scale of forest clear-cutting or harvesting far exceeds these small-scale effects. In the forest industry media, however, it is the supportive actions that get a lot of cover. Other interesting questions are how can elements of greenwash be recognized in the forest discussion, and what is lacking from the discourses of forest actors for them to enable open and honest discussion with others. So how do we study these questions? We will use an ongoing campaign of the forest actors called Metsien Suomi, which translates to Finland of the Forests. It's a joint advertising campaign of several forest actors, both corporate and private, which aims in its own words to surprise, arouse interest into forests, and encourage into a discussion about the sustainable use of forests. We will use ecolinguistic content analysis, eco-critical discourse analysis, multimodal discourse analysis, and analyses relating to systemic functional grammar and values in discourses. The leading researcher in these analyses will be Attila Rizan. Societal discussion influences what people believe and what they think is right or wrong. Therefore, misleading discourses can lead to distorted views, and polarization of the opposing views can start hindering the discussions and needed agreements between the parties involved. There's scientific evidence that points to the fact that positive and respectful discourses may, on the other hand, support the views of the public toward ones more amicable toward forest and nature conservation that would balance with the usage of the forests. We are interested in the following questions. What kind of attitudes do Finnish people have on forest actors and their role and effects on forest management? How do alternative forest discourses affect people's opinions about different forest actors, their role and effects on forest management, and on decision-making related to forest management? And how well can people recognize linguistic means of influencing in the forest discussions? We're also interested in the question if positive forest discourses can be used to affect people's opinions on the conservation need of forest ecosystems. Attitudes will be studied using Suomi 24, which translates to Finland 24, Conversation Forums corpus. Based on accumulating research data, typical discourse models of different actors are reproduced using AI technology. Pilot survey is used to analyze the functionality of the texts and the ability of people to recognize linguistic influencing tools from the texts. After the results of the pilot survey have been analyzed, a nationwide survey is conducted to study the effect of different forest discourses to people's attitudes. Data is analyzed using corpus-assisted discourse analysis and topic modeling for producing texts. The leading researcher in these analyses will be myself, of course assisted by the other members of the research group, especially our project researcher Telma Peura and Professor Veronika Laikpala. We would like to influence with our research to who decides the direction of forest discussions in Finland in the future. We aim at finding and explaining Finnish forest actors' discourses, which aim at hiding ways of unsustainable conduct or distracting the public and decision makers to make decisions without having the overall picture of the scope, purpose, and effects of public or corporate forest management. We also want to bring available a comprehensive toolkit for unraveling forest discussions, with which everyone can more easily take part in the discussion and find its problematic issues. One tangible product of this project will be a guide for eco-critical literacy, which will be made publicly available online and can be used widely for educational purposes. Thank you for listening, and please feel free to contact me via email for any questions or collaboration suggestions.